Guys, if you're anything like me, looking at maps has always been a huge part of my preparation and execution for my outdoor adventures. I have been using GoHunt digital maps on desktop and mobile for quite some time now. I have used these maps for years for my in-depth e-scouting tactics and my methods of using offline maps during the hunt. Well, now I'm happy to report GoHunt Maps now covers all 50 states. There's two ways to get the GoHunt map. You can sign up for a GoHunt Insider membership and get the benefits of all the draw odds, harvest statistics, unit breakdowns, strategy articles, as well as access to the 50 state maps, plus savings on gear for being an Insider member. Like right now, they're doing double points. For an Insider membership, sign up now at GoHunt.com, use the JScott promo code, and get a $50 GoHunt Gear Shop gift card just for signing up. You can also just sign up for a GoHunt Explorer membership, and that gives you access to 50 states for $50. Use the JScott promo code. Guys, also don't forget to get a 10% discount on gear at the GoHunt Gear Shop by using the JScott promo code. You can also reach out to my friend Cody Nelson of 20 plus years, either by phone or by text. 602-399-3699. Make sure you tell him I sent you. I want to thank GoHunt.com for their loyal sponsorship of my podcast. We're over 815 episodes in, and they've been with me since the beginning. I also want to thank Coues Ultralight Hunting for their sponsorship of this podcast. They provide the gear that I use on all of my hunting adventures. You can go to the Coues website directly, kuiu.com, order directly. They're a direct-to-consumer company. They make the best gear in the hunting industry, and I've been a loyal supporter of theirs for years. Also, phonescope.com. Go to phonescope.com, use the JScott or JScott22 promo code, and you're going to get a 10% discount at Phonescope. Guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for supporting me. If you have any questions or you'd like to send me a comment, the best way to do that is on my Instagram account at JScottOutdoors. Again, let's get right to this episode, and thanks for your support. Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I've got the Armstrong brothers, Cash and Steele Armstrong of the Arizona Ground Pounders. Guys, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Pretty good, Jay. How are you?
Good, Steele. I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys about kind of a lot of things. About conditions. I want to talk about range conditions, monsoons, grass. I want to talk to you about deer, elk, bear, bunch of the animals you guys love. Before we get into all of that, I kind of want to start with how have the monsoon rains been, and what kind of conditions are, what's it look like out there?
Oh, it's been a pretty good monsoon for sure. It's kind of spotty, but everything's kind of getting it now, and it's catching back up. But some areas, we've got some rancher buddies up under the rim in 22, and they've measured over 20 inches of rain underneath the rim. And then
that's phenomenal, Steele.
Yes, sir. Over in Young last week, and we've had a couple storms in the last week, I think they were at 10 or 12 inches at some of the ranches there.
Okay, fantastic. In the forecast, guys, I see that over the next 10 days, we're sitting at August 9th here. Over the next 10 days, I mean, there's anywhere from seems 30 to 70% chance of rain. Obviously, guys, and we'll get into the elk and all of that, it's too late for the elk antlers because the elk are, the big bulls are rubbing right now and have already rubbed. But from my perspective, it just plays right into the hands of the coues deer right now that are just pouring it on. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. And here in Star Valley, it started raining in June. It was real spotty, but those early rains like that are going to make the coues deer phenomenal this year. I think it'll be the best coues deer antler growth we've had in the last 10 years, probably.
That's fantastic. Steele and Cash, you guys have, born and raised there in that Payson area. You've had a chance to see, those 22 and 23 units at their best. You've seen them at their worst. In your opinion, just the way conditions look, is this one of the better years you've ever seen, or is it just, above average, or where do you put this year?
I would it's from what we've seen right now is some bucks. I would say it's well above average, but it has the potential to be one of the best years we've ever seen.
For the coues deer.
For coues. Okay, and we'll get more into the coues here in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about elk. You mentioned the June rains. Normally those rains don't start till July 4th, right? So
Yes, sir.
we did have some spotty June, 2-week early type showers. It didn't hit widespread, but did it hit in enough areas? And let's talk 23 for right now. Did it hit in enough areas to make a difference and actually, you think, put those elk in above average state for unit 23? Do you think antler growth is above average for unit 23 for elk?
Yeah, I think it's above average. I don't think the rains hit good enough over there to affect the elk, to help them. But the elk were in such good shape. Their bodies are they're in really good shape. We've seen some pretty good bulls, but it's hard to say. I'm not going to say for sure because
still a little early.
We won't know until, a lot of bulls show up, and there's always going to be good ones, but
yeah.
What I will say about that is 20 and 23 in this country, a lot of places were drought out over the winter, kind of. We had a pretty decent spring here in 22 and 23, the manzanitas and everything were blooming. They bloomed very good. And the acorns are phenomenal right now. And we did have a pretty good green up in April.
Okay. Let me ask you guys a question about last year's monsoon. From my perception, last year antler growth for elk was not that good, and I'm talking general over the state. You guys can tell me about your units, but it wasn't that great. But the monsoons came late, and they came pretty good, and it caused quite a bit of feed that was left over, fall feed going into the winter. What is your take on how those bulls went into winter last year, and how does that play out for this year, you think?
Yeah, that's what the deer and the elk, when we were killing them in the late hunts, they had an inch of fat on their back, and that's from that holdover feed from the great monsoon we had last year. And they were fat and healthy, that monsoon, that was one of the best ruts we've ever encountered for the elk, and we've been hunting there for 12 years, but the bulls were way more active, way more callable. It was just one of the funnest elk hunting years we've had. Not the biggest bulls, but still a lot of great 340, 350 type bulls running around everywhere,
Do you think there's a chance that those bulls that were, a phenomenal rut last year, I think they broke pretty bad last year. I see a potential for a couple of slammers to be there because they broke up because the antlers weren't great last year. They were potentially brittle. I'm expecting some good things out of 23 this year. What do you guys think for elk?
Yes, sir. And those bulls, they just got a lot of those bulls that break up, they get another year of age on them. And age has a lot to do with it too,
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the archery hunt over there in 23. They've got the 23 North and 23 South. I think there's 15. I believe there's 15 tags. Maybe there's 20 in 23 South. How much impact do you feel that those 15 tags actually have on the units for the size that they are? I mean, do you feel like those units, the tag allocation is good for the amount of country? Do you think it's just right? Do you think, potentially it's too many? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's perfect for the early archery hunt, the 15 tags. But I think what's going to hurt us is the late tags. because everybody's a good glasser now, good hunter, can shoot long range, and then big mature bulls, they get pounded on that late hunt, you know.
So
and
in the South nowadays.
In the South, more
Right.
people are doing it.
So you guys, I mean, elk and deer, I mean, big bulls, big bucks. I mean, honestly, there's no one in the state, and this is me speaking. You guys are young guys. You guys are go-getters. You guys are, you know, you're out there all the time. You guys' track record for size of bulls and bucks really is untouched. How do you consistently produce big bucks and big bulls? What's the secret?
The coues deer is, we just know the deer are real pockety, and we know a lot of hot spots. We just check, and then
we'll leave a buck. You know, if we have a good buck, you can't kill a 110-inch buck every time. You got to let them grow sometime, or let them go to kill a giant.
So in other words, you're saying that you have pockets that you're going to check, and it takes walking away from those animals. But even with that, Cash, you know, you mentioned that. I mean, it's public land. How hard is it to walk away from a 110-inch buck or, you know, a 370-inch bull when you might think that someone else might shoot it? I got to imagine that's the hardest part of you guys' job.
Yeah, that's hard. But how we really do it on the coues deer is if we kill a couple good bucks out of a piece of country, we'll leave for a couple years. We'll hunt some other country, you know, that we have quite a few of those, you know, pockets where the genetics are big and stuff like that. With elk, it's a lot tougher to pass up
370
than bigger bulls, you know, because they're a lot easier to find. With the coues deer, most guys can't hack it. They can't sit there and pound like you have to pound and to find those big deer, you know.
Well, and don't you think it takes the mental ability to go and not see many deer, but know that the deer you're looking for is there, or glass with confidence knowing that you're going to find a giant, but sometimes in that country you guys hunt, you know, 23 is pretty thick, and it's not easy to, you know, it's not a place where it's like southern Arizona where you go and see, you know, 40 or 50 deer, 60 deer a day. Sometimes maybe in the right spot you would, but in general, sometimes it's, you know, a buck or two and a few does is a good day.
Yeah, it's a struggle always, though. You know, we just know that if we keep putting the time in and we're in the right spot that has the best genetics, we'll turn a good one up. And sometimes you go without. You gotta be willing to go without. You know, you're not always gonna be the hero.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, you know, you pound a pocket for days and days and not see much and go without, but you know that they're there, and it just takes the right type of mental kind of attitude to go into that country, all the different pockets and stuff you guys hunt, that you just know what that country produces, right?
Yeah, and a big part of it is because we're lion hunters, so we know the whole unit. You know, our heads are on a swivel. We're reading sign everywhere we go, and that's probably the biggest deal, I would say.
You talk about being houndsmen, you talk about being lion hunters, but you're also you guys shoot some gigantic bears. How does being a houndsman and a lion hunter and being in that country also play into the success you guys have on those bear hunts?
Yeah, we really love the bear hunts because you know, they're usually in August or, you know, early in the year. You're glassing for deer or glassing for bears, and that's usually when we find our biggest coues deer bucks, you know. Just they kind of hit the same type of country, you know.
So in other words, you're kind of using one to kill another. You're utilizing your glassing for the big bears, and then you end up finding bucks that you might not shoot that year, but you see a buck that's like, say a low hundreds buck with a lot of potential, and you're like, let's come back here and watch that buck next year, and then let's kill him 2 years from now. How often does that happen where you kind of see something that's got potential and you just kind of watch them for a couple years and then you go ahead and go back and harvest them?
Yeah, Jay, that happens. Honestly, that's how we do it. A lot of times we might see a good buck and we might just forget about him, might not even go back to that spot, 2 years later and go check it and, hunt it with confidence. And we've had a lot of success doing that.
With the I'm going to get off on bears real fast, but with bear season, I believe there's archery. I believe there's an August hunt. I believe there's like a kind of October hunt. Do you guys have availability for those bear hunts?
Yes, sir. We have them on the openings on the August and the October hunt.
Is there one that you like better than the other, or are they both really good?
They're both really good, especially if the pairs are good, and the acorns are phenomenal this year. And there's some giant bears in Unit 23 and 22.
Those units for bears, if someone were to book a hunt, I mean, is it pretty good numbers? I mean, as far as seeing quite a few bears, can you afford to be kind of choosy, or is it kind of when you glass up a decent bear, you go ahead and shoot? What's your thoughts on that? We like to hunt for big animals, so we're kind of picky, but bears can be tough sometimes, and they travel a lot. So like if you see one you want to kill, you gotta hustle, or hopefully you're in position to shoot already is the best way. But yeah, usually when you see a big bear and you're going to be shooting at it. Yeah. And you guys get all variations of the color phase of the bear, right? I mean, you get the blacks and the cinnamons, and you basically cover. I see your pictures. You get a lot of different coloration of those bears. Yes,
sir. A lot of black bears, a lot of cinnamon, chocolate bears.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you about the coues deer, and they've kind of been doing some different things with the over-the-counter archery all over the state. And I want to ask you your thoughts on how the archery hunts for deer will be, and what your thoughts are on some of those changes. And maybe they didn't change your units. I'm just curious your thoughts.
Yes, I think they went to the quota in 22 and 23. I guess it's by a block or whatever. But I think the harvest limit is 40 for 23 and 50 for 22 on the coues deer. I'm all for it if it's gonna help the deer population. It seems to me like I don't know if there was a die-off, but in the last 5 years, last year the hunt was real good, but the 5 years before that, or 4 years, it was pretty slim pickings up in a lot of our country that we hunted. And you just didn't see the deer. I don't know what it was, if the age class was shot out, or we were just in a drought, or if we had a die-off. I'm not sure what was going on there, but dang sure it was tough hunting for sure.
Do you think that by making it a quota system, do you think that it will help guys like you to find even bigger bucks? In other words, do you really think that that's going to allow some deer to grow big?
I think in certain areas it will, for sure. I think it'll help us quite a bit because we hunt the breaks of the pines a lot, that real brushy chaparral country. I think a lot of those deer, the only way they're getting killed is by a normal archer is sitting a tree stand or something like that, Right. And a lot of those bucks live in those pine trees. It might save a few of those to where there's more.
How do you think the trail camera ban will help guys like yourself?
Oh, I think it's going to play right into that's how we hunt anyways. Not saying we never ran any, but we don't need a picture to go kill a big animal.
And have confidence.
We have the confidence because we've done it, and it takes time. It doesn't come easy, but that's how we hunt. I think it'll help us a lot.
When we're talking specifically about coues deer, we've talked about the archery. I want to dig in now to you guys have helped auction tag hunters, raffle tag hunters, killed some really, really big deer. But you also kill, every season you guys kill big deer. When you find these bucks in the velvet, and just picture whether your guys are hunting 22, 23, or down south, wherever, my perception is that you guys find these big deer in the velvet, from right now over the next month, let's say. Okay? You find the big deer in velvet and you know that they're there, and then that gives you the confidence to go back and hunt them in those October hunts or even in the December hunts, November hunts, because you know that deer is there, right? Is that the true secret? If someone really wanted to focus and start killing bigger deer, is it the summer scouting velvet? Is that the time really to do it?
Yes, sir. That's the only time, in our opinion. And the rut is good if you can hunt. The rut hunt's good because it's 18 days or whatever. But that if you have them found in August, in the October hunt, they're going to be a couple hundred yards from where you've seen them, more than likely.
And do you feel that you have a better chance, whether it's October, November, or December? Does it really matter to you, or does it just kind of change how you guys go about it? In other words, do you feel like you can produce just as big a deer on any of the seasons, but you just have to kind of change your approach?
Yeah, on the October and November hunts, it's the preseason scouting. That's what kills our big bucks. A lot of times on the December hunt, we find them right then and go and kill them. That they're up and moving. You find new bucks. It's just a good time to key in on them also. But in August, I would say, is when you kill the October and November bucks.
So in other words, the work you put in preseason totally. If you look at over all the giants that you guys have killed, giant deer, 120-inch, just giant coues deer. I don't think anyone has done it like you guys have done over these years. You directly attribute that to summer scouting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And mainly when the monsoons are good, it's like those deer. I don't know if it's something they eat, but they come out in the wide open and stand on the hillside. It's easy, way easier to find them when the grass is green.
Okay, I was talking to someone else on a podcast. I was talking to Parker Fales about a strip deer, and he mentioned they just shot this raffle buck, and I was talking to him earlier today on a podcast, and he talked about getting in on the buck, but then a giant rainstorm came in, and he said what often happens when you get those big rains is those deer kind of push out into the opens. And I asked him, and granted, two totally different deer, different country, but do you see the same thing when we get these big rain showers? Do those big coues bucks kind of get out a little bit more in the open?
Yeah, it's like a lot of them, they're easy. If you're there glassing, it's not that they're not that hard to pick up, and that's when you find them.
Okay, with that being said, let's bump to the December and even the January when they're rutting. How often do you find bucks rutting in a pocket, and then they become hard to find the rest of the year, but then you go back the next year and there's that same buck rutting in that pocket? In other words, those bucks kind of move a little bit to go rut, that can also be a good time to find them. But isn't it true that it's sometimes hard to go back and find them the rest of the year, but then all of a sudden you go back the same rut time and there they are?
Oh yeah, and that's where we kill a lot of our other big deer, is deer that we can't figure out, or things like that, but we know where they rut, and that's another great way of killing them. And they kind of like the elk, and you know this very well. You know how bulls go and stage on a certain piece of country, and it's kind of an area. It's not always right in the same spot, but usually that bull stage there the next year. Same thing with the whitetail bucks. We have some country that we hunt in the rut because it's a rut zone. There's I wouldn't say a lot of does, but a lot of does for the country we hunt. But they just lots of deer rut there every year, and we have a bunch of spots like that. It's just a good rut spot.
Right. It's let's talk specifically 23 and 22. You guys have shot really big deer in both units. If you had to choose, and you guys might be different, maybe one of you's one unit, one of you's the other. If you had to give one unit the edge over the other as far as number of big deer, maybe a better unit, what unit would you say is better?
23. I used to think 22 was, similar, but the past, 5 years, we go back and try to hunt some of these old spots that we've, where we learned to hunt, and it's just not the same.
Cash, don't you think a lot of that, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have an October hunt, and for a while, and maybe not now, but they also have October, November, and December? And they actually had too many tags going?
Yeah, I think that has hurt 22 bad. Because I can go to 2 or 3 spots we have not far from where I live, and we could go any year, and you could go find a pocket of 3 or 4 bucks here, 3 or 4 bucks there, and they're not there anymore. Like,
you're not saying you're not saying that there's not big deer in 22. What you're saying is there's not as many big deer as there used to be.
Yes, that's what we're saying. And hopefully it's coming back. Like I said, we didn't know what was going on, if there was a die off, or you don't hear about that stuff around here, but something happened. I know it was drouthy, but usually we got 5 of us. We go into a piece of country, we'll turn some stuff up, and we just weren't doing it.
Yeah, like Jay, from 2009 to 2014, it seemed like anywhere we went in 22, we could find a giant. And then, since then, we got humbled a little bit.
If you guys are getting humbled, I can't imagine what the regular Joe's doing. Okay, so
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
They're still, like you said, the genetics are here, but it's not the same. There are some big bucks, but you better do your homework. Okay,
so 23 for both of you, that's kind of the crown jewel. You would say that's your favorite unit, and that's the unit you think the best bucks are in.
Yes, I think I think for sure they're like 110 pluses. I would say there's more in 23, but there is genetics in 22 that are just freaks, and it's both kind of the same type of country, but I just think there's just more people, more tags in 22, and I think that separates the units,
Well, no.
Okay. And then elk. Obviously, elk 2023 is light years ahead of 22 in elk. Are you guys still doing much in 22 for elk?
Yes, we are. We take the 22 south early early hunts, and then
22 North
20
rifle.
22 North early rifle also.
Are you guys still able to find some decent animals compared to the average there?
It's getting harder and harder on the elk. Some of the best bulls live right in town, you know. it's pretty tough, but there is some country you can get into and find a good bull. Nothing like it used to be when we were kids. It used to be just like 23. I remember when I was a kid in my backyard here, we would flip the lights on in the middle of the night. There'd be a 350 bull in the backyard, you know. That stuff doesn't happen.
Year.
It doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. 23, the early rifle hunt, or 23 South has I believe 5 tags, and is it early rifle or muzzleloader?
No, it's the early rifle. They bumped it to 10, and they've added more late hunts in 23 this year. That's where I'm worried we might get into our age class a little more.
Yeah. So they've doubled the tags in 23 South from 5 to 10 on the early rifle hunt, and the 23 North, I believe, is it 15 or 20?
It's 20. Okay. 20 also.
Okay. As far as availability of hunts, we've been talking about a lot of different things. Do you guys have availability for any of the elk hunts coming up?
Yeah, Jay, we have the early hunts. We could take a few more. Like, I would love to have another early rifle, North or South, or I guess another archery hunter wouldn't be bad, North.
Okay.
Or South.
Okay, and late hunters, how are you sitting?
No, we're full there.
Okay, what about the deer?
Well, we could take. I mean, each hunt we could take another guy.
In 22 and 23?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The deer, you guys killed a deer last year that was kind of gnarly beamed, non-typical, really cool framed buck. I believe Levi was helping you on that hunt. Tell me about that buck.
Yeah, that was me and Levi. Last year it was on the October hunt we killed like a 112 buck, and me and Brett killed him opening day, and then that big gnarly buck we killed was on the November hunt. I had found that buck there. It's one of those stories like you were talking about. I'd found him 3 years prior, and we kind of just forgot about him. And he was probably 105 to 108 inch buck then. And then me and Levi strolled back in there on the first day of the November hunt, and about 9 o'clock, I look over there in the shade, and there he was. And when we seen him this time, we ran to him and tried to kill him.
I was going to say you probably fell out of your spotting scope.
Oh yeah.
And he's a great deer, and he's a good scoring deer, but he's one of those that has so much character that overpasses score. I mean, he's a big deer, but he's got character galore.
Yeah, and I'd seen that buck a couple times, and he's always on that shady face, and the sun was wrong to where you could really never get a real good look at him. But we hadn't been in there last year. We just went there opening day and hunted. Because I mean, if he was alive, I knew he was going to be there. And with all the rain and feed that we had, I figured he blew up, and he dang sure did. And we just seen that on that one side. It's just palmated, kind of gnarly looking with the drop tine. And we had an elderly client, and it was kind of a tough deal getting him killed, but we got it done, and that guy's a hunt of a lifetime. He was happy.
What do you guys think this year, talking about deer, what do you think that, take all the seasons in 23, what do you think the biggest buck shot will be, if you had to guess? If you had to throw a number on it, what would you?
Score wise,
Yeah.
I think personally, and I don't want to be like bragging or anything, but I think we should kill a 130 buck this year.
Really? What about 22?
We had some pretty nice deer, but nothing like 23.
Okay.
We at all the bucks we had, you know,
There should be some
there should be some
120.
120 plus
Okay.
bucks for sure.
Let's talk elk. Let's talk 23 north. What do you think the biggest bull will be shot in 23 north out of just the whole at the end of the year, the biggest bull in 23 north? What do you think it'll be?
It's hard to say. I mean, we know of a few bulls that are pushing 380. I would say, I mean, there could be a big bull rolls over from the res, or I'd say 380.
Okay. What about 23 south?
I think we could kill a 400 bull. Possibility.
Cash, do you remember way back, like Michael Parks year 09, that 435 that we killed, and then like a couple years before that? I mean, that unit, I feel like 23, but I feel like 23 South in general, it always has a chance to produce a giant, 420, 430, big bull. Do you think that's somewhat diminished now? It's not quite what it was, or do you still think that potential because of the reservation that's still an option every year?
There's not as many. You're 100% right. 06, 07. I mean, even the earlier than that, like, people really don't believe me, but like, it was like Jurassic Park. Like, you could go to a spot, and I mean, the biggest bulls I've ever seen in my life was those years. Like, it was unreal.
I remember when I first started running into you, you were, well, we were all a lot younger then.
I was just a dumb kid.
But you guys were, and still are, just running around, like just going crazy, just running. It's kind of hard sometimes to see areas where it used to be different, but I still think 23 out of all of Arizona, I mean, north or south, still kind of has that, freak potential.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And we have a freak every year. It's just sometimes you don't get them killed, or they break, or it still has there's a chance to find a 420 or 430 bull, but we don't bank on it. We hunt as hard as we can, and whatever shows up, that's what we hunt.
Yeah.
I don't know this, but you've hunted all the units around Arizona. I think it's amazing how many 330 to 350 class bulls there are in 23 South and even 23 North. Like, you can go see, 10 bulls a day over 340 probably in some areas when the rut's right.
Yeah, when
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, in my mind, there's no doubt it's the best unit. If you just take 23 in general, don't even split it into north and south, and just say 23, there's no doubt in my mind that as far as good numbers of just solid, really good, solid bulls, and the thing that I really like about 23 is it usually has pretty dang consistent rutting. I mean, as far as bugling action and, chaos, they usually get after it pretty good in 23 compared to all the other units I've been in. Consistency is kind of the name of the game for 23, and that's what I've always enjoyed over the years. I haven't been in there in a few years, but just consistently good hunting, quality hunting. The chance for a freak is always there. That's what makes kind of the allure of 23.
Yeah, I mean, for about, I don't know, for about 5 to 7 years. No, probably 5 years. It was even in the South, like we would have some big old bulls found, but they just wouldn't rut. And it's hard to hunt them when they're in that thick stuff and not bugling. And 30 minutes, you get a little window in the morning and maybe a little window in the evening. Like it was getting tough. Last year kind of made it fun again. And I mean, them bulls, they got after it.
Yeah, and I've got to think that that's directly related to moisture and, body condition and the cows being in really good shape and, really wanting to rut and get after it. Whereas, when it's droughty, their bodies are not cycling properly. The cows are just not feeling good. And, as a protective mechanism, a lot of times they just don't really rut.
Yeah, lots of calves on the ground too. That's what we're loving.
So you're seeing a lot of calves now?
Yes, sir. Like, I mean, even right here in Payson, Star Valley, right where we live, there's and in Young, a lot of baby calves on the ground.
What about fawns? Coues deer fawns?
We've seen 2 fawns that one day. Yeah, but the deer are a little different. I guess we hadn't really we've been looking for deer, but we've really been glassing for elk.
You're also in buck pockets, not necessarily in the
yes, sir.
spots. Yeah. I want to talk about the availability of your place in Young, Arizona, and how that's helped you guys, not only from lion hunts, bear hunts, elk and deer, having a place that's your base camp over there in Young. How has that helped you guys as far as navigating around?
Oh, it's been great. We can just show up with our clothes and some food and don't have to live out of a camp trailer. We can have our clients stay right there with us. It makes a lot of difference for the summer scouting. We can just go over there and scout for 2-3 days, and then it's good. It's helped us a bunch, and it's going to help us spend more time.
Yeah, I mean, if you can be comfortable, you guys have families and obligations and stuff. It's nice to have a base camp that's a little more permanent, where you've got all the amenities of home. You've got cell, you've got power. You've charge batteries. You can gas up. You have everything literally right there as a base camp. I've got to think on those long hunts. You said something earlier that I just kind of laughed at, because Darn, I always say, people will be like, oh man, you did so good. And in your mind, you're thinking, yeah, but it's a grind the whole time. Like people think it's easy, but really it's a grind. It's always a grind. And yes, the outcome is usually good, but it's because of that grind and because of that ability to go day after day after day after day and grind it out, and all of a sudden you look like a hero, but people don't realize how much time it takes.
Yeah, and just being able to come get an AC and take a shower midday and take a nap, like
and
when you're getting up. Exactly, it means a lot.
Right.
I feel bad for someone that's just going to go sleep in a tent on that hunt, because I don't think you'd be miserable.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to go for 3, 4, 5 days, but when you're talking those archery hunts are 14 days long, and I mean, you guys are, I know you're like me because I see you running around. It seems like you finally get into a groove at about day 14. Like you spend a month and you're most guys 2-3 days and they're tuckered out, but guys
14 days. It doesn't take that long. I mean, it's a long time, but it's really not.
Yeah, it goes by pretty fast.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's been great having you on the podcast, getting an update on conditions. Love seeing the giants you guys put down, and love following your Instagram and just seeing all the big bucks and big bulls. I'm looking forward to seeing the bears and all of the stuff. I want to give you a chance. It sounds like you guys have some availability for hunts.
And also, Jay, we have some I'm sorry,
No,
but
go ahead.
we quit lion hunting for about 6 years. I mean, we kept our dogs, kept a few, but the past 3 years we've kind of built our pack back up, and we are taking a few guided lion hunts.
Awesome. What time of year will that be mostly?
Well, we're going to probably move our dogs, take them with us, but mainly from February on. But we'll do a few in between hunts, from once it opens till then,
Okay, so if someone's interested in a lion hunt as well, they can give you a call, reach out.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the best way for people to reach out to you guys, and what is the best way for them to kind of follow what you guys are doing?
Our Instagram it's at AZGroundPounders, or our Facebook AZGroundPounders, or my phone number is 928-978-1343.
Awesome. Well, I wish you guys the best of success on this upcoming season, and I can't wait. I just always love seeing a post out of your Instagram because it's usually some big giant animal, and you guys have a proven track record. I appreciate your friendship over the years too. You guys have been good to me, and good to me in the field. Very professional, and I appreciate that. And I just wish you guys the best of success. So God bless you. Thanks for coming on the podcast, okay?
Hey, thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
You bet, guys. Take care, okay?
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.